Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson, broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is December 19th, 2024. We are 6 days away from Christmas. So, Merry Christmas and a happy holidays to all of those who are listening, and a good new year is coming. 2025 is going to be a much better year than 2024. 2024 was an amazing year. An enormous amount of stuff happened, and it was so cool to watch governance on paper become governance reality. And as many of you know, month of December, there's been some very deep and significant governance conversations, starting with the Constitutional Convention. And there's been some bleed out of the Constitutional Convention to an open debate about the actors in Cardano and the future of Cardano. Now, low value communication platforms like Twitter, for example, they don't really capture the nuance of arguments, and then people just take positions and bark at each other and create drama. But what's been happening recently is not a Charles Hoskinson or input output versus CF debate. And I know Rick McCracken posts a poll: "Are you tired of this drama between the CF and IOG?" There's no drama on my side here, and it's not a one-sided conversation. It's an informational conversation. The fight started in 2021, and it was deferred until governance. But this is you being informed of something that's occurred 3 years ago. To reiterate, when I say the Swiss government replaced the board of the Cardano Foundation, that is a factually accurate statement. And it's factually accurate in that what happened was Michael Parsons was the original founder of the Cardano Foundation. He started in Isle of Man. He had the Digital Asset Foundation there. When he realized he couldn't do what he wanted to do, and it was too risky there, he created a new entity in Switzerland. Once that entity got funded, he started doing things that made people deeply uncomfortable. Social pressure with the Guardians of Cardano resulted in him leaving. An interim board was appointed, and that interim board was made up of 2 Swiss people and 3 members of the community core entities, Mergo and Input Output, Tam Hassan, Nico, and Manmeet. The majority of the board worked tirelessly to try to just put the foundation together because it was in a very rough state. And then eventually they decided that Switzerland was not a jurisdiction fit for purpose. Why? Because the Stiftung structure, the structure that the foundation is, was never intended for cryptocurrency foundations. And that's my fault that it was used this way. The first actor who came up with this was Luca Miller at MME Partners back in 2014 for the Ethereum Foundation. And we thought it was a clever legal hack to use a legal structure that is regulated by an entity called ESA. And typically it's Franz's art collection. It has a founder. It was never intended to be something for a decentralized ecosystem or be members-based. But we thought it could be modified in some way. The government, the law, the regulator, they never caught up to that, which is why, for example, Abu Dhabi created the DLT Foundation laws. It's why, for example, the state of Wyoming created its own laws for these things. It's not a structure that's completely fit for purpose. It has some benefits, but it has some downsides, the way it's structured. So we said, you know what? Let's move the entity and the assets to a different jurisdiction, start over, and make it what it was originally intended to be, a members-based organization. A conflict occurred between the minority and the majority of the board. And the minority of the board tried to liquidate the majority of the board. A lawsuit broke out. The federal court ruled in favor of the majority of the board. That happened. ESA stepped in, the administrator of the foundations, and they appointed Daniel Lau, an administrator, to the board. Daniel told the board, you know what? It's time for all of you to go. We have 2 ways we can do this. Appoint your replacements as a compromise board, or I'll just liquidate everybody, put the foundation into a receivership. It'll be dormant for years, and eventually this government will pick new people through me. So as a compromise in 2021, the new board was appointed, and with the consent of the minority and the majority of the board. That's where they came from. Okay. So I don't know what type of mental jiu-jitsu you can put in your mind, but to me, that sounds like the Swiss government appointed the board, because the intent of the majority, which won in federal court before the regulator stepped in, was to liquidate, move the foundation to a different jurisdiction. and restart as a member-based organization. And we've already run this experiment. You've seen Intersect. For better or worse, that was kind of a prototype for where we could have gone and what we could have done. If you like Intersect, great. If you hate Intersect, not. But at least it's there. It exists. And that wasn't allowed to happen because an administrator stepped in and said no. And a compromise board was appointed. Now, why is this a fight today? Well, there's 3 reasons for that. Number 1, it's a fight today because it served no purpose for it being a fight in 2021. There's nothing we could do about it. The governance structure of Cardano was as such that there's nothing you could do about it as an ecosystem. Number 2, the foundation was completely aligned on the transition to Voltaire and actually was a good party in many conversations. And we tried working together to work together for 3 years, whether it be when they came to Westminster, Colorado, and we talked about a neutral organization to do the development of Cardano, and they led, and we agreed to let them lead there. They hired Dirk and worked with the Linux Foundation, and the end result was an organization that didn't really want to have anything to do with the ADA token, wanted to have businesses in charge of the development of Cardano, and I personally could not participate in. It would want me to sign an agreement for that. Okay? So that didn't work out so well. So then we took a shot out of it with Emergo and spent a year building Intersect. We wanted them to be part of that. They said in their disclosure that we wanted an 8-figure amount. We asked if they would dollar match the money that we put in. They said no. So, all right, well, pay what the University of Wyoming paid. It's a 6-figure amount, mid-6-figure amount. Didn't matter. They didn't join the board. Now, they didn't tell us while they were negotiating with us, asking for questions, that they were also at the same time building Pragma. Okay? And they set it up and built it. Now, I know all the members of Pragma, and I'm not on bad terms with any of them. We like Blink Labs. We like TX Pipe. We like DC Spark. We work with them. This was the absurdity of the entire situation. And we met with TX Pipe in Argentina and said, well, guys, we need to backfill some stuff. If you're going to go do client diversity, that's great. Can we set up a working group to talk about some basic principles of interoperability and get the formal specs where they need to be and get a test suite, just like the Ethereum ecosystem has? And Santiago's a very reasonable guy. He said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Say, okay, one conversation. There's no drama there. There's no adversarial behavior, animosity there. But that's what we did. They announce Pragma. We find out, roughly speaking, when they announce it. It's created. We say, well, can we join Pragma since we actually contribute to a lot of the software that they're involved with, like Aiken and even Dolos? No. Okay. It's the No Homers Club. We get you. We feel you. I have grievances with how they use their money and how they operate, but at the end of the day, they're an independent entity, and that's not the issue here. The issue I have is there's no oversight. It's bad governance. There's no oversight. Input Output is a private company. I own that company. You know me, pretty public guy. You see what I do, and I keep my own counsel. The foundation was always intended to be an asset of the community. It's a different animal altogether. And when you have a board, traditionally, you'd like an escape mechanism where if the board does something that is egregious or the community doesn't like, they have the ability to liquidate it and start over. And unfortunately, by the design and structure of the foundation, it's impossible for you to do that. If you like the foundation, you don't like the foundation, is completely immaterial. They keep their own counsel, and they are operating basically like a private company. There is no way for you to elect a board member. There's no way for you to fire a board member. And they control your money, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So when you complain about Circle not happening or not enough support for liquidity for Cardano assets that are issued on our chain, or that they're not playing nice with other people, or why are they doing this deal over that deal? Well, guess what? That's just you complaining because you actually don't have a say, which is why in 2021, when we even talked to the founders of this stuff, MME Partners, because Luca's a good friend of mine, we realized that it's good to move out of the jurisdiction into a jurisdiction where the community can take over that function and run it. And they stopped us from doing that, and a compromise board was put in. You get to know about this now because on-chain governance is now. And the CF has decided to go beyond being a founding entity and be an active participant in governance. They're participating in Catalyst. They have DREP. They're going to vote on the Constitution. They're going to vote on the budget. They have strong opinions. And my lived experience of the last 3 years has been not a pleasant one. And I've tried really hard, sitting from the input-output perspective to try to find a way to be copacetic. The CF has always been agreeable to my face. Fred has always been nice to me. And then behind the back, strange things happen, like the launch of their own constitution a week before, as an example, or the rewriting of history when they do their FAQ or these types of things. I don't understand why. It's quite easy to have difficult conversations. I have them every day, publicly and privately. And we had 3 years of dialogue to have difficult conversations privately. They never seem to want to have those difficult conversations. Maybe that's the Swiss style. And I'm just that cowboy American, and I'm okay with kicking people in the teeth. But at the end of the day, I don't really ask anything of them, except for the fact of disclosing to the community that now that we're in the age of Voltaire, know who has a voice. I felt it was exceedingly important for input-output to take a step back, because we've been here for so long, and we've said things for so long, and focus on the things you care about that I don't need permission to do. Adoption, partnerships, technological enhancement. I just had a call with the CEO of Flare, and I've been talking to all these other chains like crazy. We're going to get Bitcoin to work with Cardano, and we'll be there at May 2025 at Bitcoin 2025. And we'll have a great demo for that. And there's a lot of people we're bringing. We're working with wallets. We're working with other protocols. I don't need to call anybody or do a governance action to do these things. It's good for Cardano. It's the same for Midnight. Midnight will be the single biggest economic event for the Cardano ecosystem in its history. It's going to airdrop to more than 100 million people and build bridges with all the major networks and bring people together by the nature of Minotaur, the consensus protocol on the Midnight Horizon. Again, I don't need any permission to do that. I'm just going to go and do that. And there's hundreds of engineers who wake up every day for this. Where we do need permission is the on-chain budget. It's an annual concern, and it doesn't really impact me. Whether I win or lose, I'm still a member of this ecosystem. Where it impacts people are the people who have been loyal to Cardano for years, and they haven't gotten their fair share of venture capital money, grants, or funding from Catalyst. You know who these people are because a lot of you listening are those people. And you sit there and every day you show up 7 days a week, 80 hours a week. You don't get paid. You're not making a lot of transaction volume. Token's not doing what you think it needs to do. And you're trying to grow. You're trying to help. And you say, give me a ladder. And the CF says we don't give grants, or, they're not very effective historically. Their words, not my words. Meanwhile, the other ecosystems, Avalanche, Solana, Ethereum, they seem to have these bastions around that open their wallets and spend hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And our people see that, yet they stay loyal. And they say, you know what, we love the principles, we love the ecosystem, we'll stick with you, but please give us something. So the budget's coming out. And my biggest concern outside of the Constitution, which was community approved, and let's not rewrite history here, the CF tweeted live at the event that they had concerns about it. And they were certainly behind the scenes talking to Lloyd and other people, Adam, and basically saying, we don't know if we can support this. I'm glad that they've publicly said that they will. I have every reason to believe there's a very strong possibility they're going to vote no on a budget that will open up more than $100 million for the builders of Cardano. The TX pipes and the UTXOs and the tap tools and all the people who've been around and have been loyal and they've been here. And again, this is not an IOG versus CF. Whether they vote yes or no, it has no impact on my business, my plans, my participation in Cardano, and the things that we do. But it has a hell of a lot of impact on all of you. Now, if they were subject to community oversight, that would be a thing, because the whole community would come together and say, hey, maybe it's not a good thing to have so much ADA accumulated voting no for absolutely necessary funds for the ecosystem to grow. But they're not. They're like the Supreme Court of the United States. Once appointed, they're kind of there for life. And the thing is, unlike the Supreme Court, they actually get to pick their replacements. And those replacements, there's no criteria for them to have any material connection to the Cardano ecosystem. There's nothing in the bylaws that say they have to have X amount of ADA or have built a project on Cardano. They could just simply appoint anybody they want. And we can't veto it as an ecosystem or a community. So they don't suffer blowback. And I'm trying to depersonalize this because my complaint is not about people, it's about governance at the end of the day. We have two things left for the age of Voltaire before everything is fully operational. We have to get the community approved constitution ratified on chain, and we have to get a budget, an annual budget started that's a fair representation of those who are developing on Cardano and those who have been building ecosystem infrastructure in Cardano that you know, love, and use. The libraries, the wallets, the blockchain explorers, all the people building cool and interesting infrastructure, mostly uncompensated or partially subsidized by Catalyst. And you all know that Catalyst is not a replacement for an annual budget. It's hard, feast or famine, to go and every 3 months say, God, am I going to get paid next 3 months? You've lived this experience for years. The on-chain treasury is sitting there. We shouldn't be like smog sitting on a giant pile of gold. We are in a very competitive industry, and we as an ecosystem have to have the cognizance that we need to spend as an ecosystem to grow and thrive. Now, the CF does good things, and there's never been a debate about the contributions that they've made over the last 3 years or the fact that many of the rank and file people in the CF are good people. And it doesn't serve any purpose for anyone in our ecosystem to publicly fight with CF members, whether it be Matthias or whoever, over Twitter. These people are building on Cardano. And they, the people hired at the CF, none of them have anything to do with the governance decisions that the Swiss government chose to inflict upon the Cardano Foundation. And frankly speaking, I don't even blame ESA, because they're a regulator that has never regulated anything like this. They're used to dealing with Franz's art collection, and they were so far outside of their comfort zone dealing with the drama of the cryptocurrency industry and a bunch of Americans and Japanese and Europeans just showing up and taking a structure that has nothing to do with this and using this structure to create a cryptocurrency foundation, which is, again, why we tried to get it out of that area and put it into the hands of a regulator that actively wants to be part of that story and has the skills, the technical expertise, and the ability to enter into a dialogue to change things and can accept the idea of token holders actually having a say over the governance. That was stopped. So at the end of the day, they have to respond, and they can respond through silence or action, and it's up to them. My job is to inform you. We couldn't inform you years ago because it served no purpose and there was nothing we could do about it, but we inform you today. And you as a community, decide what you want to do with it. I've already decided what I'm going to do with it. I'm just going to keep building on Cardano. I'm going to keep doing stuff. The Bitcoin integration and Midnight, and build up Lace, and we're bringing lots of people into the Cardano ecosystem. And frankly speaking, Cardano has never been healthier. We are so strong that despite the fact that we've had a dysfunctional foundation for years during the Parsons era and during the transition era, we are so strong despite the fact that we haven't had good growth hacking and we're chronically underfunded compared to all the other ecosystems. We're still in the top 10, and we still have one of the most loyal communities in the entire cryptocurrency space, with the possible exception of the Bitcoin community itself. That's an enormous accomplishment, and it's a testimony to the fact that we stand on strong principles as an ecosystem. And I'm in a position in this ecosystem where I have the luxury of honesty, and I have the luxury of inconvenient or hard conversations. It doesn't do me any favors bringing these things out and talking to people. It makes me look bad. It makes me look adversarial. People say Charles can't work with people, or he's just spreading drama, or he didn't get his way and he's throwing a tantrum. And absolutely part of the PR strategy to deal with something like this is to try to inflict that image on me and make this a Charles versus CF thing. But I'm going to return to the same issue and beat the drum again and again and again, because for 3 years, we've had these concerns and beat the drum. I do not believe something that calls itself the Cardano Foundation should be structured in a way where its board can never be held accountable by the Cardano community, and its board chooses its own successors. It's just, simply put, not good governance. Never has been, never will be, and no one can ever convince me otherwise. And yes, you can do lots of amazing and wonderful things, but you can never recover from that original sin until you correct it. And the crazy part about all of this, and this is what the Swiss do, is they lie through omission. The Swiss government didn't appoint the board. Well, I just told you where it came from. So technically speaking, it's not a lie. But the full story explains the context, and you realize actually they're not giving you the real information. And when you say things like, well, we just can't because ESA won't let us do this, what would stop the CF from granting its funds to a new structure? They just created Pragma. Perhaps you make Pragma a proper members-based organization and take the funds of the CS and grant them over time to Pragma to move the funds over, and then it has community control. By the way, I'm not a member of that. It's an independent governance group. You still have that oversight, I suppose. What would stop you from doing that? Is it ESA, the regulator? Well, then they're now agreeing with me that the jurisdiction is getting in the way of appropriate governance of the ecosystem. Or is the position that you, the community, are not qualified to have a say on the board? You, the community, are not qualified to have a say on the conduct of the board, good or bad. Because here's the issue. Even if this current board is perfect, how can they, once they've turned over the keys to another board, know perpetually, for all of time, that the board members are going to be of high character? But don't worry, the regulator will figure that out. The Swiss regulator that's not in the cryptocurrency space doesn't want to be in the cryptocurrency space. It doesn't have the technical skills to understand things and would default to a legacy traditional financial regulation system. Really, they're a qualified regulator for this. They're not. Structure and form don't fit. And again, this is not a criticism of them, but the regulatory body that thinks more about this in Switzerland is FINMA, not ESA. And FINMA doesn't have a say here. You see the problem? It's like the CFTC regulating pharmaceuticals. They may do a fine job talking about gold and silver, but perhaps, maybe, just maybe, they're not the most qualified group of people to think about drug development. Form follows function. You have to have the right regulation set and the right governance set. There's no purpose in continuing this conversation, which is why I'm making the video, closing it off. Because at the end of the day, I've said my piece. And now you know what I knew in 2021 and what we've dealt with and endured. I was acting in good faith, hoping that over time there would be a natural resolution to this. But the statements of the CF are clear. They're going to participate in governance. They feel entitled to do so. They do not want you voting on their board. They do not want you having any oversight mechanism on their board. So whether you agree or disagree with their decisions, you have absolutely no say. And they're going to participate in the budget and constitution process. I hope, for the sake of the community, that is wise participation and it results in a good outcome. I have no say in it. You have no say in it. They keep their own counsel, and we'll see where it goes. It doesn't have any effect on us and our participation. We're here to stay. I created Cardano for you, and I want to make sure that this ecosystem as a whole continues to grow and thrive. And my role is better served these days growing the ecosystem and improving things. And goddamn, it's expensive and time-consuming to backfill things that, frankly speaking, should have been done. One of the magical properties of Midnight, above and beyond the glacier drop, is that Midnight is, like all of you, the builders, it's an asset issued on Cardano. Not ADA, but an asset on Cardano, which means we now have the same lived experience that all of you who have issued an asset on Cardano have. The same experience with exchanges, the same experience with custodians, the same experience with wallet support. And we're going to have to spend next year more than $20 million getting necessary integrations with dozens of different custodians, wallets, and platforms just to open those floodgates up. It's perplexing to me why this was not a priority years ago for the people who were in the governance side. But you know what? We'll just do that. And we're not going to the Treasury asking for funding for it. I'm spending my own money to do that. It's the same for conferences and the same for other things. We just do these things because we think it helps the ecosystem. And at the end of the day, I want Cardano to succeed. And there's no reason we shouldn't because we have better technology, we have a better culture, we have a better community, and we have the ability to have uncomfortable adult conversations in public. Good governance requires you to be able to make a video like this without fear. Good governance requires you the ability to have a conversation and treat people like adults. You're not kids. I'm not dad taking care of you. And this is not mommy and daddy going behind closed doors and arguing and trying for the sake of the marriage and the children to protect you. You're equals with every other ADA holder. You matter, and your voice matters just as much as my voice. And I owe you information. I owe you context. I've done my best to build as much as I can. And now we have on chain governance, and you are the deciders. You are the DREPs. You are the constitutional committee members. You are the people that ultimately are going to have a say in 2025 about what does Cardano mean and what's a Cardano priority. My suggestion to you as your equal is that we take care of the people who have been with us the entire way. And those are the builders on Cardano. I'm going to take care of them by working as hard as I can to get the CNT side of the house where it needs to be, and also connect Cardano to the rest of the blockchains, and also improve core infrastructure and make sure that we have high TPS and we have all the bells and whistles people care about. There's an enormous effort underway. You can take care of them with the budget, which is coming out in 2025. And the hope is the budget is inclusive of a representative sample of the people who have sacrificed a lot to be here. And then they won't have to worry about how they pay their rent. And they won't have to worry about the next day and the day after. They'll have some certainty there. And you know what? We then can, as a collective whole, go and have an adult conversation with A16Z and all of the VC class and the media and others and reset those relationships. There's understandably a great degree of bitterness that people have because they feel, I feel, and many others feel we didn't get a fair shake. We didn't get fair representation. There's no greater example of that than the Wyoming Stablecoin Commission, where an executive director goes before elected officials and says Cardano is centralized and controlled by IO. Cardano doesn't have freeze and seize capabilities. And when he's asked, well, how did you make that decision? Well, we looked at it ourselves and made that decision. Well, Unbox and others already have that capability on Cardano native. So we have the capability. We have the ability to do a demo to showcase it. We'll do a demo next month to showcase it. But nobody asked us. We were just told who we are, what we have, and what our properties are. And that person then decided to pick his ecosystem and omit everybody else, Bitcoin, XRP, Cardano. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that happening in the industry right now. And we shouldn't be shocked by it because that's what happened in the other industry, the legacy financial world. The banks get together and they make the rules, and we're told they're fair. Now, the big crypto guys are getting together who have some network effect, and they're trying to do the exact same thing and exclude other people. So there's some bitterness there, and I appreciate that. But nothing productive is gained by being bitter. What you got to do is just win through fair competition and be smarter, faster, and better. We will ship Ouroboros Laos as an ecosystem. We will get technology like Midgard and Gummy Worm as an ecosystem. We will connect to all the major cryptocurrencies, including the ones that are left out that shouldn't have been, like the XRP community and the Bitcoin community. And you know what? We're going to be their DeFi layer and give them a heck of a lot of benefit and value. And we'll get a lot of benefit and value. It's trade. That's how that works. We're going to go do that. When you start summing up those market caps, it's a lot bigger than these people who pretend to be in charge. It's going to be a fight. But you know what? We can win that fight because we have an on-chain government. We have you, the listener. We have the DREPs. We have the Constitutional Committee. We have the constitutional delegates. These people have devoted themselves to make Cardano win for the next generation. And I do strongly believe we will overcome all of the headwinds that are before us. So the CF has to make a decision whether it wants to be part of that or not. And in their mind, I believe that they believe they are. And you, the community, can dispassionately and neutrally look at the things that they do. You're going to like some of the things they do. You're not going to like some of the things that they do. And you know what? You have an on-chain government. You can use it how you see fit. Same for me. Input, output, private community member. I do stuff. Some things you like, some things you don't like. Some of you like my politics. Some of you hate my politics. And that's okay. It's called having an opinion. You're allowed to have one. It's a free ecosystem. Everybody's invited and welcome. I'm just a bit frustrated because as a founder of this ecosystem, there was an initial intent behind institutions and what institutions were supposed to do. And I, as a founder, made mistakes in the design and development of those institutions in the initial staffing of them. And unfortunately, sometimes you can't correct those mistakes. And if I could get a do-over, many, 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 many things would be very different, from the roadmap to the initial structure of the entities, to how we worked with the broader cryptocurrency ecosystem throughout the years. But you don't get do-overs in life. You just get the wisdom of knowing what to do differently. And hopefully you'll see that was the foundation structure of Midnight. And you'll see that also through what we've done on the on-chain government. SIP 1694 is a starting point, but already we're having deep and detailed conversations internally, soon to go externally, about how do we introduce more nuanced governance systems. 1/8 of 1 vote is not sustainable in the long term. I've always agreed with that, but I've also said we have to start somewhere, and this is a good starting point. But we as an ecosystem will be able to go beyond that and adopt much more advanced techniques, which will require a little bit more social coordination and stronger institutions. But I do believe in the long term, we can get to a point where these these techniques can enhance our ecosystem. And that's the point of minimum viable governance, is to have the ability to do that. Every step of the way, we get stronger, we get smarter, we get more capable. So that's why I believe 2025 is going to be a great year. Now, one last thing. Everybody over Twitter and social media, we've said our piece. It is what it is. Nothing is now going to change. People have made their decisions and their opinions. There's no benefit to continued hostility. So the people who like me and really feel passionate about this, you're not going to gain anything by attacking members of the Cardano Foundation. Cardano Foundation members typically don't attack back publicly. They certainly do privately. And I have the private messages to prove that. So I suppose they can continue doing that. That's been their style for a very long time. But at least publicly, they're not attacking. And that's good. So that's the reset that we have. You've been informed. You know the history. You know where things happen. You know what the commander's intent was. You know where the ecosystem started. You know where we're at. And we have clarity about where we're going. We have the budget conversation, the constitution conversation. The next hard fork is happening in January. That's when those conversations begin, because the DREPs turn on. All of you listening, participate in governance. Join Intersect, become a DREP, have your voice be expressed. Whether you vote no or yes on a budget or iterations of a budget is immaterial. What matters is the participation. And now you are armed with the facts, the history. There's no more discussion that's necessary on this topic. You know what happened. And it's your decision what to do with that information and how you want to react to that. And you know where IOG stands and where we're going. We're just going to focus on the things that really matter: adoption, growth, improving the CNT experience, getting people to come together, and working with the industry as a whole. And we're going to keep doing that in 2025. You have my commitment on that. And I do believe our best year is going to be next year. It's going to be our biggest year for adoption. It's going to be our biggest year for technology. And it's going to set us up to be the dominant cryptocurrency in the next 10 to 20 years. I really honestly believe that. And I think we have everything we need to get there. And I see it on the faces of the people that participate in governance. So thank you for listening. And this is the last video I will make on this particular topic. And as a courtesy to the CF, I'm not going to answer any more questions on it in the media or otherwise, because any further questioning from external parties will just simply incite things and be misinterpreted or used to attack the Cardano ecosystem as a whole, or to imply that the Cardano ecosystem is dysfunctional. We are the most functional because we're the only ones who are adult enough to actually be able to talk about dramatic things in the public. Every other foundation has to hide, obscure, and bury things. And people you've never met get in a room and they make a decision about what to do. You're in charge, so the decisions are public. And this is just going to be Thursday for us. And you know what? There's Friday tomorrow. We're going to move on to the next thing. And then there's the next day. And then there's the next day. And we don't look back, we look forward as an ecosystem. And you know what to do. I just want to make sure that we don't miss a great opportunity. Next year is a phenomenal opportunity. We have a large treasury. We have a lot of capabilities. We have an amazing ecosystem. We would be fools as an ecosystem not to take advantage of those capabilities. So you, the D-reps, and you, the Constitutional Committee members, have to make that decision about how aggressively do you want to push the accelerator next year. And I think we should go all in. And you'll see that, I think, in the budget proposal as Intersect pushes it out. And ultimately, you'll have to make that decision, regardless if it's conservative or it's ambitious. It doesn't change the behavior of input output. We will continue contributing to the core protocol. There's a lot more work to do to finish off that Basho stuff. We will continue building, and we are going to get Midnight out. We will continue building up Lace, and we will get the Bitcoin interoperability done. We're going to make sure that's a high priority. And we're already starting to work with many members of the Cardano ecosystem to accelerate their technology, like inviting Midgard into our innovation group, inviting Gummy Worm and Sunday Swap into the innovation group, inviting ZK Fold in to accelerate the software readiness and the business readiness so we can get it to the next level and get it out faster into market. And we're not even charging them for that. It's a free service because we want this technology to be in the Cardano ecosystem faster. We want them to be successful. These 1,000 ships have to get launched because those are the ships that are going to turn into an ecosystem to rival any other in the cryptocurrency space. So thank you all for listening. And I hope this adds a final point of clarity on a very exhausting and long 3-year debate. And I am looking so forward to talking about different things. Cheers.